So the first component we're going to place will be the two A4973 integrated circuits, surface mount. Traditionally, you want to start with your surface mount chips first, so that way, in case anything messes up, you can easily correct any mistake without worrying about interference with other parts. The two chips are placed here and here on the bottom left configuration of the board. And you will notice a little notch exists here at the top to indicate the orientation. On the chip itself, you will see that there is a corresponding notch on the chip, so you want to orient it as such. When it comes to placing integrated circuitry, normally it is easiest to align the chip on the board and then solder one pin, one of the diagonal pins, upper left, upper right, whichever, so that it'll hold the chip in place while you solder the other pins. There exists some further techniques in which you apply a lot of solder on all of the pins, use solder wick to remove it, and then touch up every single pin individually. That is a little bit more advanced, but we're gonna not do it that way. So from here, I'm going to take my soldering iron. I'm going to apply a little bit of solder after tinning the tip, which is a process that puts solder on the soldering iron. I'm going to ensure that it's lined up. I'm going to hold it down with the tweezers and just apply a little bit of solder there to hold the component in place. From there, I'm going to take a look and make sure that it is properly aligned on all the pins. It's a little bit off center. You can tell at the bottom left pin, but it'll be enough so that way all the other pins can be soldered. So now I'm going to go through and solder the remaining pins. Actually, I'm going to touch it up. When it comes to components, it's not particularly difficult to touch up. You just reheat the solder and realign it as such. There we go. So now the component is aligned, and now I'm going to go ahead and solder the opposite diagonal pin so that it gets held in place while I solder everything else. So it's just heat up the solder, heat up the pin, and just let the solder flow. And now go through and touch up all the other pins. Now sometimes you'll end up with flow that flows like that. That is fine. You can either use solder wick or simply scrape it off with the soldering iron. Boom. You can see it is corrected from there.